All right, let's talk about something we all think about: personal transformation. You know, that drive to grow, to get better. But what if I told you that the very tools we've been taught to use, things like willpower, discipline, setting goals, what if they're actually flawed? What if our whole map for how to change is just wrong? Let's get into it.
I mean, really think about that for a second. That constant struggle, you know? The grind, the feeling of failure when you slide back into old habits. What if that's not a personal failing at all? What if it's just the natural result of trying to navigate with a completely broken map?
So, first things first, let's just tear up that old map. We're going to deconstruct a couple of the big myths that keep so many of us completely stuck, starting with the way we think about the future itself.
Okay, myth number 1. We have this idea that a good decision is like a perfect bullseye. You aim, you fire, and you hit the one single best outcome. But honestly, that's a super fragile way to live. A much stronger, more robust idea is to make choices that don't just aim for one tiny point in the future, but actually keep multiple good futures open and available to you.
Because see, the future isn't some single destination you can plug into your GPS. It's more like a massive swirling cloud of possible paths. Every single choice you make either opens up parts of that cloud or closes them off. So the real goal isn't to bet everything on one single dot, but to invest in the whole cloud, making sure you always have good places to go no matter what happens.
And that brings us to the second myth, and this one's a biggie. We are told over and over that change is all about willpower. It's about gritting your teeth, forcing yourself, muscling through. But the reality is so much more powerful and way more subtle than that. The real battle for change isn't fought with brute force. It's a battle of awareness. It's fought in those tiny, split-second moments of choice where you can either fall back into an old pattern or consciously choose a new path.
So if willpower isn't the answer, what is? What's the real engine that drives transformation? Well, this is the core idea of our whole discussion today. Real lasting change is perceptual. It's not about trying harder, it's about learning to see differently.
You see, true transformation isn't just changing your behavior. It's a fundamental shift in how you see reality itself. It literally redraws the map of what's possible for you. And when that happens, you don't have to fight old habits anymore. They fall away because they don't even make sense on your new map of the world.
And the things that redraw this map for us are ideas. Now, ideas aren't some force that shoves you in a certain direction. No, they're more like maps that direct you. They're the grammar of your mind. They tell you what's important, what's worth the effort, and they shape every decision you make. You change your core ideas, and you literally change the directions you're capable of moving in.
But let's be real, how often do these deep core ideas change on their own? It's rare. Usually it takes a shock to the system. It takes a moment where your map of reality gets proven dramatically, fundamentally wrong. This is what we call a moment of radical surprise.
So, what do we mean by radical surprise? We're not talking about your morning meeting getting canceled. A radical surprise is an event so out of left field that it doesn't just make you adjust your plans. It shatters the entire model you used to make plans in the first place. It's a head-on collision with the limits of your own understanding.
I mean, most surprises in life are pretty small. A flight gets delayed. A project hits a snag. Yeah, they're annoying, for sure, but they still fit inside your existing frame of how the world works. You just have to make a little adjustment.
A radical surprise, though, is totally different. It doesn't just adjust the frame, it breaks the frame wide open. It's an event that happens completely outside of what you even considered imaginable. Your mind can't just adjust. It has to completely rebuild its model of reality from the ground up.
It's that moment, that feeling when the ground just gives way beneath you. It's when something you had filed away in the impossible folder suddenly, undeniably happens. That isn't just a miscalculation. That's a rupture in your reality. And right there in that rupture, an incredible opportunity is born.
So that moment of rupture, it's a threshold. And what happens next in the quiet battlefield of your own mind, that's what determines everything. Are you going to transform, or are you going to scramble back to the safety of your old broken model? And this is exactly where the willpower myth just completely falls apart. You can't force your way through this moment. This battle is fought with something called metacognitive awareness, which is just a fancy way of saying the ability to think about your own thinking while it's happening. It's about being able to step back and just observe your own mind's reaction as your world breaks.
So how do you do it? How do you navigate that critical moment? Well, it's kind of like a four-step process. First, you have to recognize the rupture. Just fully acknowledge, my old map is broken. Second, you have to observe the resistance. Watch your mind freak out and try to desperately cling to that old familiar map. Third, and this is the hardest part, you have to consciously suspend the old model. You have to let it go, even if you don't have a new one to replace it with yet. And finally, you just allow. You create the space for a new, better, more coherent understanding to emerge from the chaos.
And this is the incredible payoff. When you can bring that kind of clear-eyed, courageous awareness to that critical moment, change stops being something you're trying to do. It's not just an intention anymore. It actually becomes your destiny. It's the inevitable outcome of a shift that has already happened deep inside you.
But, successfully navigating that internal battle isn't the end of the story. It's actually the beginning of a whole new one. It's about what it's like to live inside this new, updated reality.
Just think back to where we started. In the old model, change was a constant, exhausting, uphill battle against yourself, against your own habits, and you are fueling it all with this limited resource called willpower.
But after this kind of deep perceptual shift, everything's different. The fight is just over. It's not that you have to resist your old way of being. It's that your old way of being just doesn't make any sense anymore. Trying to go back would feel totally fake, like putting on an old Halloween costume that doesn't fit and you don't even recognize.
This new understanding, it sinks down deep. It becomes your new center of gravity. It's this silent, invisible force that just effortlessly organizes your thoughts, your choices, your actions. You don't have to think about it any more than you have to think about gravity. It just is.
And the results are so tangible. Things that used to seem impossible, now they feel totally viable. Actions that once took a heroic amount of effort, now they just feel natural. And here's the key. The world outside hasn't changed one bit, but your entire way of being in that world has been transformed.
This whole process is so profound, it even changes the fundamental questions you ask yourself. You're no longer stuck in that painful loop of, how do I force myself to change? That question belonged to the old broken map. A new, much more powerful question starts to emerge.
And that new question is this: how do I remain faithful to the new horizon that has opened? You see, change is no longer a task you have to complete. It's a new reality you get to live in. The goal isn't to achieve change anymore, it's to honor the clarity you fought for and to live your life from inside this new, expanded view of the world. And that right there is a much more profound journey to be on.